Good afternoon, everyone. We are dividing our presentation this afternoon into several topics. And the first is to give you an understanding of the intent of the survey and some of the conditions that apply during the first year of the survey. Part of the genesis of this survey was our recognition that IPED's federal reporting has expanded to include online education. There are some problems with their definitions, and we hope they are ironed out in the next few iterations of the annual IPED's reports. But we felt that one of the bases of previous surveys was no longer a matter of discussion in independent surveys. We also noted that the Babson survey, collaborating with Online Learning Consortium, had been terminated, and we noted some gaps in ongoing surveys. Quality Matters and Eduventures see online education as going mainstream, and I'll say a little more about that in a minute or two. And as such, we felt there was need for greater focus in surveying the field on the resources and management of online learning, the emerging tools and methods in the industry, quality assurance activities, and regulation and accreditation issues. We decided to focus for a better picture not on a cross-section of institutional officers and faculty and others who have been surveyed in the past by other groups, but on the person we defined as the Chief Online Education Officer, in the belief that there is emerging around the country an individual at most institutions with active online programs who sees the big picture, who understands the institutional mission, the resources available to carry it out, the faculty concerns and student demand that online education is responding to, has some control over technology, quality assurance, and is engaged in accreditation appropriately for online education. No single officer probably has all of these streams of knowledge and responsibility in equal measure, but we do think this is a significant emerging profession. Another recent survey by Eric Fredrickson at the University of Rochester has in fact focused on the role of the COEO. And we will be joining him in April at the Quality Matters Regional Conference in New York City, comparing our results and looking to the future to expand on them. As I mentioned, we came to the opinion that online learning has become mainstream after its struggle for recognition over the past 15 to 20 years. I won't attempt to summarize what's on this screen, but there is a good deal of data to suggest that in terms of its impact on registration online as a part of total registration, and the proportion of all courses that are being offered in higher ed using online tools has really become a significant element. But going mainstream means many other things as well. Online being mainstream means that at many institutions, certainly not all, it's no longer regarded as experimental or provisional. Resources for supporting online education are built into the budget on a regular basis, and faculty are expected to move seamlessly between online and classroom-based education. And there are more implications too, and some of them will come out as we go through the data in the survey. The first year survey had limited participation. I'm going to thank all of you for your participation, and we do look forward to greater participation in the future, but this was, after all, a new effort. We had 107 institutions whose chief online officers responded, and the number could have been larger if we had sufficient time to publicize the effort and a better process for identifying chief online officers, many of whom have different titles. There is no standardization on the issue of identifying this individual at each institution. But there is a trend that's noticeable, and we collected their titles and report lines and find that the great majority are reporting through academic affairs at their institutions, and that seems to have become the dominant pattern as compared to perhaps a decade ago, when many of these programs were being handled by CIOs, CFOs, and other institutional officers. In our sample, we had a range of 2- and 4-year public institutions and 4-year private institutions. But for-profit institutions did not respond in sufficient numbers to be represented in the data that I'll be going through. Excuse me. First-year responses will help us to refine the survey in the future. And we hope to triple the participation by year 2 and dig deeper on issues identified in the initial survey. Today will be a first look at some of the results, some of the trends we've noted, and we hope that your comments and questions today and following up perhaps through email will help us to further refine the CLOE survey. A little closer look at the sample we had. You can see the number of 2-year public, 4-year public, and 4-year private institutions and the percentage that they represented in our sample. And you can compare those to the proportion they represent of all institutions offering online programs in the IPEDS data. One reason for the discrepancy is that there is a 4th category of the for-profit institutions that are not represented here. We noted that the majority of institutions, public institutions at any rate, that responded to the survey have been offering online programs for more than a decade. It does appear that the 4-year private sector, if they're well represented in the sample, has been a little further behind in terms of the development of the online component in their offerings. But if you look at the 5-year figures, you can see that substantial growth has occurred in the period from 10 years ago to 5 years ago. And you can also see that in the 2-year public arena, maturity has been reached in this field in the last few more than 5 years ago. We've got some figures here on the average and median number of online courses that institutions of these varying types have. We give the median because the averages are high based on some outlier institutions offering enormous numbers of courses that drive up the averages. So the median may be more reflective of what most institutions do. Projecting growth, we asked the respondents what they anticipated in the next 3 years. And the public institutions and private, 4-year public and private, were estimating about a third or a little more than a third increase in online program development over the next 3 years. And the number was much lower in the 2-year publics. It's part of a pattern that I see in which the 2-year institutions seem to be reaching full development, maturity, saturation, whatever term you would want to apply. And that is far from the case in the 4-year arena.